So, hi everybody. My name is Claire, and I work for Lancashire and South Cumbria NHS Foundation Trust. So, I am the vocational learning coordinator for the trust, and myself and my colleague, who's going to introduce himself in just a second, are going to take you through some hints and tips of how to complete this application.
Hi all, my name's Sam. I am Project Support Officer for Lancashire and South Cumbria. I work in the recruitment team and I'll also be helping Claire today in supporting you through your applications. Hi all, right, what we'll do, we'll jump straight into NHS jobs. So all I've done is literally typed into Google NHS jobs. We'll just hit enter and from there we're straight into it. So it's jobs.nhs.uk. So that's the easiest way to search for NHS jobs. Now, NHS Jobs essentially it is a advertising platform, so you can apply to NHS Jobs, but ultimately it will take you to track jobs. But NHS Jobs is where every trust puts all their vacancies. So whether that's a primary care trust or a secondary care trust like Lancashire and South Cumbria, your primary care trusts are more like your GPs and your doctor surgeries. Right, what we'll do, we'll search for a healthcare support worker vacancy. Support worker, and I'm only interested in healthcare support worker roles based in Lancashire. And let's hit search. So just to give you a brief overview, every role will give a job title, and then underneath that it will tell you what trust it actually is that we're recruiting for. For this one's Lancashire and South Cumbria, which is our trust. Um, Northern Care Alliance. We've also got like another Lancashire and South Cumbria, a few others. Mersey Care, we've also got. So I'm looking for a band three position, and I'm also looking for a permanent role. So let's just apply some filters and scroll down. Perfect. So just to make everybody aware, if you do want to apply for multiple vacancies, so say it's this healthcare support worker and this one, the part of different trusts, you will need to submit two separate applications because the trusts don't communicate between each other in terms of who's applied for what vacancy. You'll need to do that yourself. So I'm only interested in the Lancashire and South Cumbria healthcare support worker role. So this is the one that I'm going to select. And then from there, every vacancy has a job reference number. So this job reference number here is searchable on the trust vacancy website. From there, you'll be then redirected to NHS jobs. And this one is where you can actually get more of an insight into the actual job itself. On the top right hand side, it's got the apply for button. And then just below that is the recruiting manager's details. Underneath that, it just recaps what we've been looking at previously. So it's a band three, goes into detail about salary, the contract type, and just below that is the job description and the NHS staff benefits. From there, we've got a person specification just below that, and this is what we will shortlist on. And right at the very bottom is the trust website. So we've reviewed everything, we're happy, we want to move forward. So we're going to click our apply for button. And then you're taken to this page where it just advises you that we are likely to be redirected. So we'll click continue. And we're now on to track jobs.
You would go on here, you would create an account if you don't already have one. It's really simple to do that. Just your email address, a little bit about yourself, and you can create an account on there. But what we're going to do for the purposes of this video is just to sign ourselves in. So we have created an account already for us to be able to come on from your point of view. So first things first, what you're going to do is you're just going to have a look at the job details. Just familiarise yourself. Make sure that it is the job that you want to apply for. Make sure that you've not clicked onto another one which is for a different location or a different trust. And then we're just going to scroll down and we're just going to make sure that we do cover all of the person specification. Make sure that the job is right for you and it is something that you want to apply for. And then we are going to scroll down once you've read all of that, and we are going to start our application. So, some basic questions. First of all, are you currently an employee of Lancashire and South Cumbria NHS Foundation Trust? No, you're going to put down for that. As you are an external candidate. Immigration status obviously is very specific to each individual person. So you need to have a look through those and see which one is relevant to you before choosing that and moving on to the next section. So for the purposes of this, myself, I am a UK citizen. So we're going to pop that in and move forward. This is your screen for creating your application. So as you can see at the moment, it says it's in draft. Once that goes to green, once you've completed all sections, you will be able to submit that. But you can come into this as many times as you want, make amendments to it and save it. It's only once you have submitted your application that you will no longer be able to work on it. But don't worry, if this does happen, you will be able to withdraw it and submit a new one if you're not happy with your initial submission. So we're going to scroll down. So we don't accept online CVs. So you can either use a recent application if you want to make any amendments to that, or you can use a blank form. So what we're going to do for the purposes of this one is do the blank form and we're going to launch the application. So as you can see from the top, there's certain things that say not started. So that means that you haven't done anything with that at all. And that will be the same for all of these sections at the moment. So if we just go into personal details, so you will have to open all of these different sections to be able to complete them. So what we're going to do for you is we're just going to complete one section so that you can see what it looks like when it's done. So it turns itself green. So there you can see. So that's showing now as green. So that one is okay. And it has the little tick and it says the word okay next to it. So anything that is applicable or that is essential has been completed for that. Now, we do recommend that obviously you complete in as much information as you possibly can do. So these different sections, so obviously that's the personal details one. You've also got application questions, which will just tick on start section so you can see what's in there. You've got your education and professional qualifications, relevant training courses, membership of professional bodies, NHS service, etc. So all of these do have to be filled in separately. So if we go down to the next one, which is your references, and the next one down is your equal opportunities. So again, as we say, if you can just complete this in as much detail as you possibly can do, it will just make things a lot easier.
Right, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go through it in a little bit more detail in terms of what we're actually looking for. So let's assume that you've completed all your personal details and these are now all green. Your application questions is where we tend to see that most people struggle and need additional support. That's not an issue, and that's what the purpose of today's video is. So let's go through your education and professional qualifications first. So on this one, what we need to do most recent to oldest. So if you've just left university, school, college, you put them details in there. If you've just been on a recent training course, that will come later on. So don't worry about that at the minute. So subjects and qualifications, let's assume it's maths with place of study, grade, year obtained. We will do that and we'll keep adding them individually. Just remember, most recent first. From there, just press save and then we can move on to our next one. For each of these, it will vary on how long it takes you, depending on how much information you put. We always say the more information that we know, the easier it is for us to process your applications. And it also shows to recruitment managers that you've got them skills and abilities to undertake that role. So relevant training courses. So if you've done anything in terms of fire safety, first aid, basic life support, anything along them lines, if it's an IT based role and you've done anything to do with computer literacy, put that in there. That is also the same process as the education one, most recent first. So first aid, training provider, duration, year of complete, and let's press save. Membership and professional bodies. This one seems to confuse quite a few people. So If on your advert it says that you need a NMC pin or you need a HCPC registration, that will be advised. If it does not show that, you don't need it. So you then press I'm not required for this post and then press it. If you're ever unsure about that, please, please, please get in touch with the recruitment manager or the recruitment team and just ask them for clarification. Just say I'm unsure about the professional bodies and registration section. Can you just advise, does this role require it? Nobody will look down on you or anything like that. It is a very common question to ask. NHS service, if you've ever worked for the NHS before, you just put what dates you've worked for. If not, just press save. And then that shows that you've not answered that question, but it's marked it as green because you haven't worked for the NHS. Employment history. This one is one where we see quite a lot of people missing information out. So the more information that you can put in this, the easier it is for your references further down the line. And it also gives the recruitment team a lot more information to work off when they're working on your application. So just like all the others, we do most recent to oldest. So job one, full address in the type of business, so it might be retail. Reporting to, so you've been reporting to a manager. If you've got the telephone number, put that there. Don't worry about that because you can fill these details in and the reference section, and then your job title, your start date, end date. When it says grade, if you wasn't on a like local authority or NHS, leave that blank and just insert your salary. There's no obligation for you to insert your salary. It just makes our life a little bit easier for when we're coming to do your employment checks. From there, I just need a bit of an information in terms of your reason for leaving that role, and then just a brief description of your roles and your responsibilities during your time there. From there, just press save. So now that we press saved, it'll show as completed. What we need to do, we need to add our previous ones in. So what we do, press add another, and then in there we can take more details around it. So what we'll do, I'll add my last previous job before that one. Just to be aware, you don't have to add like 15, 16 years worth of employment history. It can just be 3 to 5 years worth of employment history. As long as that is your most recent work history, that is sufficient enough. Gaps in employment history. So this is very common. People have different changing circumstances. You might have had children. You might have been on long-term sick. There could be a number of different reasons. You could have been traveling. You could have retired. All we need to know is the time frames. So, for example, 2021 to 2021, and mine was May, April, and I was seeking employment. Employment, and that was I was claiming universal credit, so DWP, and we just press save. Put in information because this one is quite a large one and probably one of the most important ones. We will come back to that later during this video. Our next one is Armed Forces, and you know yourself, have you been part of the Armed Forces? So you just answer that accordingly. So I haven't, so I'm just going to select no. So let's move on to our reference section. This is very similar to the employment history, your training, your education, as we're looking for most recent to oldest. For your references, just to make it completely transparent, it's 3 years worth of references and it is the most recent 3 years worth of references. If there's any gaps in your references, we just need to be aware of that. So in this section, if you can just make your way through it, your referee's details, the first name, surname, you do need to reach out to your referee before obviously putting them down on your NHS applications, just so that they're aware that we are likely to get in touch with them. As you make your way through, you'll see some asterisks on the side of it. These are essential criteria that you have to complete. So, can we approach the referee prior to interview? For some people, it's yes. For some people, it's no. You might still be working in that employment. That is not an issue. If you do select no, the recruitment team will not be in contact with them until they've got your authorization.
So what we're going to do now is we are going to, for the purposes of this video, assume that everything that we have done is now green. And the only thing that we have got left to do is the supporting information. So when we say that the supporting information is the biggie, the reason for this is because when your application is when your application is submitted, this is the main information that the shortlister will see. So they won't be able to see your name, age, ethnicity, gender, anything like that, because all applications are shortlisted anonymously in order to obviously ensure an equal and fair process for everybody. So they will be able to see everything that you put within this applications question section. So the supporting information is the place to put all of your work history, all of your work experience, to elaborate on any parts about training courses that you've been on that might be relevant, any lived experience that you think is relevant. So we do have such a thing as transferable skills. Now, I could go into a lot of detail about this, but I obviously won't. If you want to know if you have transferable skills, there is a website, and we're going to put it up on the slide at the moment, and that's on healthcares, and that will be able to let you know whether you have such a thing as identifiable transferable skills. Okay, so also, the reason why we say that it's really important to put a lot of information in the supporting information is it means that you are able to outline the values. Now, without touching too much upon values, because again, we could talk about values in quite a lot of detail, they are very unique to each trust. So each trust will have a different set of values that they place on individuals coming into the trust. So one of the biggest pieces of advice that we can give you when also looking at the supporting information and what you are going to put in there is to have a look at the job description and person spec for the vacancy. Now, Sam did tell you where to get this from earlier, but just for ease, we're just going to take you back to the advert so you can have a look and see where that is. So you are back on NHS jobs here. You're on the advert that we were on before. So if you scroll down to supporting documents, you can see here on the right hand side, the job description and person spec is there. So what I would advise you to do is if you are looking at applying for something, for a job, I would download and save this so that you have it to hand. But also don't forget that you can obviously come back and have a look at this separately if you need to. Okay, so obviously this is really good for you to look at as well, because this is what of all of the trusts will use in terms of a job description and a person spec. So obviously we just need to double check that it is what we are applying for. So it gives you all the information at the top there. So when you're looking at the person specification, you can see that you've got a description. So for example, education qualifications, knowledge and experience. And we have an essential column, and we also have a desirable column. So essential basically means that it is needed in order for you to be able to do that role. Desirable means that it would be great if you had that ability already and you can identify that within your supporting information. However, it doesn't matter if you don't. So if we look at the essential criteria for education, so it's asking for an NVQ level 3 or higher in health and social care, or QCF diploma in health and social care, or an interest in completing the above training, or can demonstrate the equivalent skills and knowledge gained through work. So I think it's really important here when we look at things like education qualifications. It does start off with obviously a set of required qualifications, But if you look further down into that, it does say if you can demonstrate the equivalent skills and knowledge gained through work, either paid or unpaid, that you don't actually have to have those qualifications. So don't look at something like that and immediately look at it and go, right, well, I don't have an NVQ level 3 or higher in health and social care, so there's no point in me applying for that. Always read everything fully, because it might be that you don't have that qualification, but you might have a certain number of years that you have worked within health and social care in whatever aspects, and you are able to demonstrate that on the supporting information through those years of work experience. So, Sam, in your opinion, how thorough do you think they need to be, and how in depth do you think it needs to be in terms of providing examples for each one of the sections of the person specification?
What I potentially say to do is break it down into sections. So as you get the education, qualifications, knowledge, experience, answer them as questions. So look at it and go, right, so do I have this? No, I don't, but what can I evidence that I've got instead of? So you don't have the MVQ level 3, but you've got the skills and the knowledge gained through paid or unpaid work. So you detail that and use it as a bullet point. So pick them off as bullet points. So you've got this one, right? Yeah, I've evidenced this. Now move on to your next one. I've evidenced this. I've evidenced this, and use it as a checklist for you. When we jump back to our adverts, it shows your specifications and your person specifications here. This is what we shortlist people on. So this is the key information. So we've bullet pointed it already for you. So all you need to do in your supporting information is take these bullet points and draft responses to these questions, essentially. And as you make your way through it, there's not that many. So it's not a case of we just need a couple of sentences. We need you to give a full in-depth answer into why you can demonstrate this. So for your knowledge, demonstrate understanding issues surrounding mental health illnesses. You might not have had first hands-on experience, but like Claire said, you've done some research. So within that research, tell us what you found, tell us what you understand, because the more information that you put in this section now, the chances are that you're going to tick them boxes when it comes to shortlisting. And that is the key. As soon as you've been shortlisted and you can get an interview, that is the key essentially to getting into the NHS. Because what we find, a lot of people don't put enough information in that supporting information, and in turn, they don't get past shortlisting stage. Okay, now that you've completed your supporting information, all these sections should now be green. So what we'll do, we'll just make our way through, we'll work from top to bottom. So our application is still showing in draft. We've done all our personal details, so let's mark that section as complete. Perfect, and now it's showing complete. Application questions, we've now completed all that. We've detailed our supporting information and we've gone in there and answered all the questions. References, we did that previously, if you remember, and equal opportunities, I've just completed these. So let's mark these sections as complete. We've now been given a green little box so that we can submit our application. Just before I do submit our application, I just want to make one thing really clear to everybody is that you can't then use that for a different vacancy because it'll be different shortlisting criteria. Each trust will have its own process on shortlisting candidates, so make sure that you don't clone this application and use it elsewhere. You can use the majority of the information, but it's the supporting information that needs to be specific for each application that you submit. So please, 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 I've seen it too many times where people have just resubmitted an application and it's been an admin role and they've applied for a healthcare support worker role and none of the shortlisting criteria matches. And in reality, they would have been a good candidate, but we cannot physically shortlist them if they don't put any information around the shortlisting criteria. And unfortunately, we do have to reject people because of that reason. Right, so what we'll do now is, now that we're happy that we've applied for the right vacancy, we've completed our supporting information to the correct shortlisting criteria, we can now submit our application. And it's just a simple case of pressing submit. You'll get a confirmation And yes, I've checked all my answers. I'm happy with them and I would like to move forward. So yes, perfect. We will now get a tick notification at the top of the screen, and we've also got another notification to say that we've submitted our application. On this section, you can view your application. You can't edit it though. What you can do, if you do want to make any changes to that application after you've submitted it, you will have to withdraw your application and resubmit a new one. So my best advice would be draft your supporting information on a Word document, type it up, and then copy and paste it into your application. So then that gives you the opportunity to make any changes where you need to. And if you do want to edit it for different vacancies, you can do it on the Word document.
I also think it's really important to say really good piece of advice there from Sam around actually doing your supporting information on a Word document. What this will allow you to do as well is to be able to spell check it and grammar check it. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to do a little bit of a roundup in terms of what we think are the key elements of what we've discussed today in a checklist form for you. So one of the first ones for me, Sam, is are you applying for the right role?
That's a great one, Claire. My next one will be, do you have the skills and experience to evidence that you meet that shortlisting criteria?
Yeah, that's a really good one as well. Basically, if you don't have the essential criteria and you aren't able to evidence that, chances are that that might not be the role for you. So obviously, just think about that very clearly. I think my next one would be: have you taken down the manager details?
And not only that, Claire, have you saved the job description and person spec, because that is vital information that you're going to need moving forward for this application.
Yeah, that 100% would be one of mine, Sam. My next one would be: have you kept a note or a record of your track, username, and password?
That's an excellent point, Claire. So just on the back of that one, as recruitment administrators, they don't have the function to edit or amend or reset passwords on Track, and that's only Track that can do that. So it's a third party that you'd have to get in touch with if you do ever lose that information. So please, please, please make a copy of it. My next point as well, just on the back of that one, is can you evidence that you've done most recent to previous?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, just making it easier for the recruiters and the shortlisters as well to have that information in the right format is really important. I think my next one to go on the checklist would be: have you been able to provide an example or examples for all of the person specification essential criteria?
Perfect. Thanks, Claire. So you've got any issues whatsoever with your track account or supplying evidence, or you just don't understand something, please get in touch with the recruitment admin team, and Claire will put up the details on the screen now for you.
So it's a goodbye from me
And goodbye from me.
and good luck with your application.
Thanks for your time.